Okay, so we are recording now for everybody's knowledge. Okay, so my name's Keith Smith. I'm super passionate about empowering remote teams to solve their collaboration and innovation challenges. And today we'll be learning about a process called lightning decision jams and how it can be used for quick problem solving with teams. Um, so my goal today is not only that you learn about the lightning decision jam process, as well as learn Mural, which is probably a new tool perhaps, but you come away feeling comfortable enough to run one of these design jams with your own team. So to that end, I've included in the resources section of the Mural, the templates, the documentation, everything you need to run your own workshop like this. Okay, so that's going to be my primary priority going through. The resources section is at the bottom left of the canvas, the Mural canvas, and I tend to use those words interchangeably, but the canvas is the white area, and there's guides and etc. in there. So our agenda for the workshop is I'm going to provide a very quick introduction to the Mural shared whiteboard as well as the Lightning Decision Jam. We're going to work through the workshop ourselves on a fictitious challenge, and that'll take about 45 minutes or so, give or take. And then finally, we'll wrap up with questions. If you do have any questions along the way, please, or problems for that matter, please post those in the chat, and one of the hosts here will address those. So let me just start with Mural, which is the shared whiteboard tool that you're hopefully playing around with a little bit and exploring. Mural is one of the main whiteboard tools. There's other ones, of course, but it's really tailored, I guess, to activities where you need post-it notes and Sharpies and a timer and voting. So these are sort of design thinking activities typically. So it's very well suited to that. So like on any shared whiteboard, you can see what everyone else is doing, and you can edit anything that's been placed on the canvas. However, I have locked a bunch of things just so that we don't entirely destroy this workshop. So some of the things are locked, but you do have control over anything other activities that someone else was doing. So you can edit someone else's post-it note, for example. On the left-hand side, I've listed some common keyboard shortcuts, which might be quite helpful. And I'm going to start actually sharing my view of Mural. And I tell you that just because it can become a little bit confusing for those people in Mural, because you're going to have two windows. One is the shared screen from Zoom, which is me, and the other one is your work. So just keep an eye on that, because sometimes people get confused and can't figure out why what they're doing isn't working. So just bear with me 1 second here. Okay, so I've just shared my screen. So you should be able to see my view. Wow. And you can see someone just put a whole template onto the canvas. That should be fine. We'll resolve that later. So, so just continuing on here. So let me just tell you very quickly about the Lightning Decision Jam. So it's a problem-solving process that removes unstructured conversation, enabling teams to reach decisions quickly and democratically. So really, it can be applied to any type of problem solving, and it's a great alternative to a regular meeting. The way it works is you bring 4 to 8 people together around a shared topic or a challenge, which can be as broad or as focused as you like. And so the topic could be, how do we make our teamwork more fun? Or You know, it could be product related. It could be how can we improve our online store's checkout process. It could be just about anything. And today our topic is going to be how can we improve remote work. So the exercise itself can be done remotely or face-to-face, but as you'll see, being remote actually offers some advantages since everyone can be anonymous. So it's done almost entirely in silence, and this is a key to its effectiveness actually. And that ensures that everyone's voice is heard equally, and it avoids individual biases from creeping in and dominating. And for teams who are experienced with the decision jam process and are comfortable using Miro, it can be done very quickly, as there isn't any of the overhead associated with, you know, explaining a tool and explaining the actual process. Okay, so it's a huge productivity hack for teams, and I really encourage you to give it a try. Okay, so instructions for the workshop. So today's challenge is written on the left-hand side of the canvas in red here. So we are working on improving remote work. So for today, assume you're all part of the same team, a very large team, as it turns out, but you're all part of the same team and you've been gathered together to work through this challenge, but remotely, obviously. So the workshop itself is broken up into 3 parts. The first part of the workshop will be individually brainstorming what is working well and what problems exist with this challenge around improving remote work. Okay, so then we're going to actually prioritize the captured or the information that we brainstorm through those processes. In the second part, we're going to take the best solutions to these problems and actually, or sorry, we're going to generate the best solution to the top problems that we generate through the first part. Okay, and in the third part, we're going to actually take a closer look at the top solutions we come up with and rank them on an effort and impact scale. And then finally, we're going to come up with steps required to actually action the solutions we've come up with. That's very high level sort of description. So I want to really emphasize that today's workshop has a much larger number of participants than the 4 to 8 recommended. However, my goal is to have you experience the lightning decision jam process so you can go away and address a real challenge with your own team. So we're more focused on the process today than actually solving improving remote work. So just to keep that in mind. So I guess before we begin the exercises, I want to pause and just see if there's any questions coming on through the chat, as I haven't had an opportunity to really look at that yet.
We don't have any questions so far.
Okay, all right. Wonderful. Okay, so what we're going to do, the first exercise is number 1 there. You can see it says start with things that are working. So when we talk about our challenge, we often think about what's working and what's not using a sailboat analogy. So here you can see, you know, the sailboat, the wind pushes the sailboat forward, and that represents everything that's working. And the anchor represents all the things that are holding us back, are stopping the momentum of the sailboat. Okay, so we're going to start in step 1 by identifying all the things that are working with remote work for you, okay, from your perspective. So in silence, we're going to write all the things that are working well with remote work, all the positive aspects on those blue stickies. We're going to write one idea, or sorry, on the green stickies. We're going to write one idea per sticky. So for example, I am writing right now, I am saving money by avoiding restaurants. So that could be one thing that's working for me. So just, that'll be the exercise. We'll do that for 4 minutes. So just click on a sticky and begin typing. Don't overthink it. Really, the idea here is go for quantity over quality. And if you need additional sticky notes, you can just double click on the canvas to get those. Okay, so I'm going to set a timer for 4 minutes. So there's lots of empty stickies to the right of the sailboat, or you can double click on the white canvas to get a new sticky. Awesome. So just about a minute left. All right, time is up. So just wrap up the sticky that you're working on. I believe it was Ed in the chat alerted everyone, really good shortcut in Mural. Sometimes you're zoomed out and you want to read something, but the text is really small. You can actually, if you hold down the X key and hover your mouse over a sticky, it'll actually zoom in and pull out that text. You can actually read it briefly. You don't have to zoom into the canvas to read it. So it's a really helpful little shortcut you can use. So thanks for that, Ed. All right, so we're gonna move on to the second step here. And so really the second step is essentially similar to the first one in terms of populating stickies, except we're gonna focus on all the problems. So these are the blue stickies that we're looking at below. Okay, so in silence, again, we're gonna take probably another 3 minutes now in the interest of time. And we are going to write as many problems or challenges or annoyances or concerns that you have with remote work. And you want to try and make those specific so that someone else reading them won't you know, misunderstand you if it's too general. Try and make those clear. So, you know, saying I struggle to be productive might be a bit too general, and saying I struggle to be productive because of all the interruptions from my kids would provide a lot of clarity for somebody who's reading it. All right, so go ahead with the same exercise on number 2. I'm going to give us 3 minutes this time since you guys are rocketing along quite quickly. Okay, just under a minute left. All right, so time is up. Okay, this look like some really good descriptions. Again, that X key will be really handy in the next exercise. So just finish up if you're still working on one of these notes. Okay, so the next exercise what we're going to do is we're actually going to vote on these problems. So we're going to vote on the problem you consider to be the most pertinent to solve. And again, we're thinking about our original challenge, which is we're trying to improve remote work. So I'm going to turn on the voting feature in Mural. And essentially what we're going to do is everybody's going to get 3 votes. And you can apply each of those votes onto one of these blue stickies. And you can apply more than one to one of the stickies. You can apply them all on the same sticky. You can put them on your own sticky if you want. There's really no limitation that way. So let me just set up that voting right now. Okay, so just started the voting session momentarily here. Okay, so the way you vote is by just clicking with your mouse on one of the blue stickies. And you have 3 of those votes each. And if you want to remove a vote because you made a mistake or you change your mind, use the shift key and click, and that'll remove it. Take some time and look through all of those. All right, so we got about 10 people here finished. Lots of people still voting, which is fine. All right, so I can see people are still voting. Let's just give a little bit more time. All right, so about 30 more seconds before we close the vote. All right, penguin and seahorse. All right, perfect. So I'm going to end the voting so we can see the results. And you can see the voting results on your screen here. So we had a lot of top performers here with 4 votes. So hard to focus on one thing, too many distractions, all day sitting, hard to separate the work time from personal time, job search is impacted, no direct H2H interaction. What's H2H?
Human to human, I think.
Oh,
That's my best, my best idea.
that sounds reasonable. Okay, so I guess the question is, are there any duplicates here? Not really, not really. Those are all really good ones. Okay, so there was one question in the chat, and it was, there are possible repetitions. This is from Bola. Do we skip? So when you're not dealing with 30 odd people, when you're dealing with 4 to 8, what you typically do is, if you identified 2 while you were doing your voting that were the same, if you were remote, then what we do is we just color. We get you to color those 2 post-its the same color, a different color that we could review later. And we'd assess after the voting, are those 2 equivalent? And if so, we just add the votes together. And if you were in person with post-its on the wall, you do essentially the same thing. You'd put them together on the side for review later. Okay, but we're really trying to get the essence of the exercise understood. Okay, so Ed was just asking, I'll just take this one question, a process question, namely identifying the fact that some of the post-it notes aren't clear enough, aren't detailed enough. And this is where the facilitator should be coaching for clear, for very specific, as specific as possible, problem descriptions. And it is a little harder with a fictitious challenge here. We're not, you know, if we were all part of a team, a product team, we would have a lot more common frame of reference, and this would be a lot less of an issue. But yeah, absolutely. You know, if your team is using this practice regularly, you know, you over time start understanding, okay, you got to be more specific when you're writing your post-it, because there is no talking. So that, and then really, if you don't put a sufficiently detailed description, then you risk losing your voice because people don't understand what you're saying. That's a really good question. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all the 4s. So just bear with me 1 second, and I'm just going to move them up to step 4 here. All right. Okay, so I believe those are all the top performers. So I haven't put these 1 to 6 post-it notes into any particular order. I know that there's a priority line here, but because they're all the same priority, you can choose based upon your situation with your team how you want to move forward. So you could do another quick vote to determine, okay, which one of these, you know, do a tiebreaker, you know, to determine which one of these you want to move forward with. You know, if you had a large, let's say you had 2 groups of 4 to 8 people, you could have one group move forward with one of the problems and the other half of the group move forward with the other half. So really at this point, I'm just going to make an executive decision in the interest of demonstrating the exercise. We have all-day seating, job search, impact. How about this? How about really quickly, why don't we do a very quick vote on these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? So we'll do the tiebreaker, we'll make this democratic, okay? All right, so bear with me here. We're gonna remove that. We're going to just start another vote. Start a voting session. Okay, tiebreaker. Everybody gets one vote, okay? And so what I want you to do is, of the 6 cards, of the 6 Post-its, which one do you want to move forward with? We have to choose one. So which one is it going to be? So, hopefully they won't all be tied again.
I think you're blocking some of the post-its.
Sorry about that. All right, it looks like we're pretty much there. Just a couple more seconds for people to make their final decision. Looks like there's some indecision. Okay, so I'm going to end it in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's see what happened. So there we go. So there was a winner. Thank you. So what we're going to do is move forward with the one that got 6 votes here. So I'm just going to bring it down. And we're going to go to the next step, which is reframing the problem as an opportunity. So we're going to reframe this problem in a how might we statement. So these are a common method, and basically the how might we statements are great because they turn challenges into opportunities, and they also broaden the scope of possible solutions. So you can see an example here where the problem is, I have no idea what's happening on project X, and the how might we could be, how might we make sure everyone stays in the loop with all running projects? Okay, so we're going to very quickly do the same activity here. Oh. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. So no direct human to human interaction. So I'm just gonna, for the sake of simplicity, and if you want to throw a how might we into the chat, if you have any ideas, you know, it's pretty straightforward here. How might we increase the, or how might we compensate for a lack of direct human-to-human interaction? So I'm making an assumption that by direct, we mean physical. Find, simulate, right. So how might we simulate? So that's a good one. Human-to-human interaction. I think I like that one better. All right, so how might we simulate human-to-human interaction. That's perfect. And it's positive, which is what we're looking for. Thank you, Cyrus. Okay, perfect. So what we do now is we take that positive reframing of our problem and we're going to move it up here to step 6. All right, and we're going to do the same activity, which is essentially a note and vote, as they call it in design sprint language, around this. So we're on the pink post-it notes, we're going to write as many ways you can think of to tackle that how might we challenge. And again, it's without discussion. And so as we saw in the last exercise with the problems, you want to make sure those solutions are clear. There's no need for interpretation of vague or imprecise language. Try to be as specific as problem with your solutions. Okay, so I see someone started already, which is perfect. I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes, and it's the same activity as before. So go ahead. All right, just about half a minute left. All right, so the time is up. So just wrap up the last one you're working on. And now we're going to vote. Again, similar exercise to previously. This time everybody gets 6 dots. And I want you to take some time. Those folks, actually, sorry, those folks who still have a Post-it selected, please click away from the Post-it note or we won't be able to vote on it. So who is it? There we go. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to vote on the solutions. Okay, everybody gets 6 votes. Okay, and you're voting on a solution you think would best solve this how might we. So take your time, read through the various solutions. You have 6 votes. Use the X key to zoom in on a post-it if you can't read it. Okay, looks like folks are still voting, so we'll have some more time. All right, last few people. Give you another minute or so. All right. Just another 20 seconds or so. Okay, so we'll give another 10 seconds. Seems like there's about 4 folks who are thinking and reading, so let that go a little bit. 3 people left. All right, 2 people left. Somebody changing their vote. Oh, nope. Lobster just arrived back. Excellent. All right, so 10 seconds left. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's see which one scored the highest here. All right, so we had a clear winner. Play some virtual team building games on Fridays. Got 15 votes total, 12 unique votes, which is excellent. So that one there is the clear winner. Then we had have a virtual coffee break and don't talk about work. That's a good one. That got 10 votes. Actually 7 unique voters, and then weekly happy hour. So similar ideas there. So really great ideas here. Zoom coffee session. So that sounds very similar to number 10, or to have a virtual coffee break. So this would be a case where we could probably merge some of them that are similar. But again, for the purpose of this experience, I'm not going to spend too much energy on that. Okay, so just bear with me while I move some post-it notes around, if you would. Okay, so I'm going to grab the top scoring ones here. So we have a 10. Oh, we had a 15 there, sorry. And then 9. And 8, a bunch of 8s. All right, so I'll stop with those ones. So we have 3 8s, and then sort of the long tail here. I'm just going to quickly look at the chat, just see if there's any questions. Yep, it's absolutely okay to vote more than once on some stickies if you feel strongly about that particular solution, for sure. Yeah, so it looks like Maria already answered that. Thank you. Perfect, perfect. Doing my job for me. That's excellent. All right, so moving on here. Okay, so the next step is number 9. So now that we have a list of solutions that should solve the most important problem, it's important to know how much effort is required to implement each solution, so we can really decide which ones can be tried quickly and which ones might take more time to implement, or possibly it's not worth the effort at all. So it's entirely possible some top scoring ones are completely infeasible in a short period of time. So what we want to do is essentially take each of these top solutions and on an effort impact scale, rank each solution by the effort required to implement it versus what do we think the impact will be, i.e. the degree to which that particular solution would solve the how might be problem. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the first one. So if, oh, here. Okay. So I'm just going to remove the votes here for now. And so if we were in person, we could draw this scale on a whiteboard and we could take the Post-it in question and the facilitator could start right in the middle and get folks to say, all right, on the impact scale, is this high, medium, or low? And people could say higher, higher, lower, and you could reach consensus there. And then I could say, okay, how about effort? And I could move it horizontally and say, left, right. So in this case, we can't do that because we're virtual. So the way we're going to do that is with a vote. So I'm going to give, again, everybody 1 vote. You will be voting on the little gray dots that you see on the effort impact scale. So for this particular solution, play some virtual team building games on Fridays. What do you think? Where should this particular solution land on an effort impact scale? Okay, so I'm going to just start the voting session. So solution 1, everybody's going to get 1 vote. All right, and so you're going to vote on one of those gray dots. Where do you think it should land?
Okay, Keith, we have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Should the solutions be all realistic with the current technology or future, or also the futurist?
So absolutely. What we're trying to assess here is what can we take as a solution and test? And you'll see this in step 10. Our goal, the outcome, is really to find solutions that we can test within a week or a week and a half. So that's the goal of this particular exercise. But obviously, if you were focused on a product related challenge, the solutions might not be testable in short order. So I think that the most important thing is that all these ideas be tracked, because even though we're not carrying forward some of the problems or some of the solutions, these things can go into a backlog. These things could be tackled as a project. You know, maybe there's enough interest to actually do a mini project to validate them. So it really depends on the actual challenge that you're dealing with.
Thank you, Keith.
No problem. All right. So just give it about 15 more seconds. All right, so I'm going to end the voting session here. We'll see what the consensus was. I'm looking for a heat map of sorts, so I'm just going to close this one. So if we look at this from a heat map perspective, I would say, you know, the average is probably going to be somewhere a little bit skewed up towards this area. So we're going to send that to the back. So this one is definitely in the sweet spot for implementing now. So the next thing we're going to do, I see some people voted on pink cards. I should have been clear about that. So we're going to do this with one more. We're not going to go through all of them. So I'm going to just clear that. The next solution we're going to look at is in terms of where it would land on an effort impact scale, have a virtual coffee break, and don't talk about work. So I think probably just looking at this, we can probably eyeball this without doing the exercise. It would be fairly low effort and probably close to the other one. So I'm just going to arbitrarily throw it in there. Again, I just want to save time, and I think that you understand the essence of the exercise. So the next step is the one where we actually want to create a test. So the idea here is we come to the table, we want to improve remote work. It's a vague topic, and we've come up with some solutions. So now what we want to do is, in short order, you know, a 1 to 2 week time frame, let's come up with 3 steps or 4 or 2, action those, assign those to people, and have a sort of yes/no test that we can evaluate after that time frame. And if we, you know, track forward with 3 solutions, 4 solutions, 2 solutions, it just depends on your manpower and how much effort is required. Then we'll actually have actionable steps that we can move forward with. So I'm just going to bring this particular solution down. Okay, so if you look into number 10, I've provided you with an example. So if the, oh, sorry about that. I just covered it. There we go. If in the example here, if we have as a solution, have one-on-ones, calls, meetings with people you want to build better relationship with. Interesting, very similar. So that came from a previous Lightning Decision Jam with the same topic. So it's interesting how much those are aligning. So, you know, 3 steps, we could schedule and conduct 3 one-on-ones with, you know, within a week and a half. We could send out a short evaluation questionnaire to all the participants, you know, report whether participants felt this was a productive use of their time. So really we're trying to get to action here. So in terms of the, how could we make this particular solution actionable, play some virtual team building games on Fridays. You know, I think it would go along the same line. You'd, you know, assign, you know, someone to set up and coordinate, you know, a virtual team building event this Friday, and or maybe tomorrow is a holiday, so it's the following Friday. Some way of getting feedback on this, you know, so maybe, you know, at the event or right after the event, there's a quick poll. So user satisfaction type poll. We could think more about that, and we'd assign that to somebody, you know, and I think that would be essentially it. Report back. So if, you know, we had, say, 3 solutions and they were all along a similar line of plan some kind of, you know, virtual something, then perhaps we could next week have all of them, you know, schedule all of them with the team, and then our poll could actually compare those 3 activities, and that gives people a much easier way to prioritize one solution as superior versus another one. Okay. I noticed there was I believe there was a chat. Did we get that resolved? There are polling tools online that could be used.
Yeah, that's the question that Ed had. Then this is regarding voting. So there are polling tools online that could be used for prioritizing voting in a 2x2. Any thoughts on using other tools that, you know, for live prioritizing or versus mural? Yep. Yeah.
So that's a good question, Ed. I think that frankly, this Lightning Decision Jam is a framework, a set of steps. And I think tools, you know, always the discussion around tools should really be, you know, what, you know, if we have tools that the team is already familiar with and it fits the bill, you know, whether that's a polling tool or a whiteboard, you know, a shared whiteboard tool, I think those are the tools that make more sense to work with. So I think it's whatever suits the purpose. You know, Mural is just one product out there. There's another one called Miro, M-I-R-O. You know, those ones tend to be more common. But really, I think it just comes down to your team members and what they're used to. And, you know, if you work at the bank, you might not even have access to Mural because the bank's firewalls might block that tool or something of that nature, or they have their own. So yeah, whatever works for the team. Where can I find the Lightning Decision Jam to use with my teams in the future? Good question, Key. If you go all the way to the left of the canvas, you will find a resources section, okay? And there's a whole bunch of links there. I'm just going there now. So the top 3 are kind of like the 3 key ones that you would use. So the leftmost one is a full article containing the template. There's a handbook, and then Mural also has a guide for facilitators. That one's more broader if you're really interested in going deep into facilitating and want to learn a little bit more of the pedagogy, if you will. But yeah, everything you need is in the first and second link here. Speaking to resources, these two links down here, you essentially just double click on them and you click once, a little open it thingy appears here, and then you just click on that and it'll pop open a new tab for you. It's a little bit counterintuitive. These two links are to libraries of different activities. So, you know, maybe it's not problem solving that's challenging your team. Maybe it's problem framing. Maybe it's you know, innovation type exercises. Maybe you want to run a design sprint. You know, all those activities, whatever the type of need you have, are in those libraries. So they're really good resources for kind of finding a new method. And the lightning decision gem is in there as well. Okay. Just want to take a look at the chat here. How does one budget cost actionable solutions? So the okay, sorry, I just jumped down to the next. Second link is locked, the PDF document.
Yeah, the documents appear with a lock. So
it's a bit of a usability thing with this tool. If you click once on one of these resources, if you look really closely, if you zoom in, a little button at the bottom right that says open appears, and you have to click that. So it's a 2-click process. Okay, so you click once on the actual thing, and then down at the bottom, a little link, open mural, and you click on that. That should open the tab. So let me know if there's still problems with that. So great, thank you for the confirmation, Keith. So how does one budget cost? So Mural is, this version we're using here is free. So everybody can get up and running with a lightning decision jam just like we did today. You know, they're very generous in their free sort of license, if you will. You know, it's really intended towards consultants who have, you know, clients and who want to start working, you know, with multiple clients who have multiple workspaces and multiple murals. So that's what they're targeting. But, you know, this free version is quite sufficient for you and your team. I don't know how many, it's limits to one workspace and as many rooms as you want. So really it's, if you get to the point where you hit the limit of the free account, you're probably getting a ton of value out of the tool. So take a look at it. I don't know what Miro offers in their free account. I haven't used it as extensively, but I'm sure it does all the same stuff, has all the same templates. I mean, both these tools are sort of in this design thinking space. So, they're very capable. And in my design consulting world, I see both of them used interchangeably. Okay. Just before I ask for any more questions, I just wanted to just quickly kind of wrap this up, sum up this workshop. So in a short amount of time, you know, we've taken a vague challenge of improving remote work and using it in using a democratic process. We've produced a short list of viable solutions, almost entirely without discussion. So, you know, this is not a strict process. You know, you can, you know, you could adapt this 10-step process to your own needs. And, you know, each of these sort of sub steps actually comes from design thinking. So, you know, this note and vote, as we call it, is quite a common design thinking method. It's used everywhere, you know, so it's something that's been repurposed, right? You know, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this effort impact scale. Like this stuff is, you know, been put together in a sort of structured recipe, and it's a starting point, and you can use it as is, or you can hack it to your own devices. I mean, we kind of hacked it a little bit at step 4 when we had a tie. We just said, okay, let's do another vote, right? So it's really quite flexible that way.
We have another comment here regarding the voting. It seems like the free version doesn't allow you for voting.
Of Miro.
It's Miro, not Mural.
Not Miro. So we're using Mural. I know it's very confusing. The two names are very similar.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Yeah.
So that's why I say, like, we're using the free version of Mural here. And I know that, and this may be the case with Miro as well, I know that these companies are very cognizant of, you know, COVID and the fact that people are suddenly remote. And you're seeing this a fair bit where companies are extending their free licenses functionally, you know, to support people. So there may be a situation where you have to sort of like request, you know, a COVID upgrade to your free account or something of that nature. So do check if Miro offers something like that. You know, for example, I know WebEx just upped their conferencing limits for free accounts, this type of stuff. So I've been seeing that a fair bit. Is it better to use follow me or summon? I find participants get lost in the canvas. So I'm the only one who has summon. Summon, I believe, or maybe you can summon one person, but summon basically, if I click this, I'm gonna force all the Mural users to quickly move over to my view. Okay, so it's gonna force you to look at what I'm looking at in terms of whether I'm zoomed in or where I'm zoomed in. Click. So I can show you if I click, you know, now everybody's been pulled over, okay? So that's a nice feature just to kind of get everybody looking at what you're looking at. It can be quite upsetting if people are doing work while you're speaking, which can happen a lot. Like people are thinking and doing and what have you. So sometimes they use that. The asking to be followed is basically a way to essentially chain everybody's view to my view. So if I say ask to be followed, it essentially is going to drag everybody around with me as I move around. So it's essentially like summoning, you know, constantly. And you can break out of it just with some mouse activity. So if you want to do something else, you can break out of that. So that's essentially what those functions do. You know, a lot of times people are playing around and it's really annoying because they can ultimately just look at my screen to see what I'm talking about and then go back to their screen and do what they were doing. So that's just one approach, I guess. I wanted to mention that if you have any feedback about this session or ideas for future sessions or topics, please leave those on Post-it notes. We have a feedback area located at the far right of the canvas, top right, so you can actually see top right in my view. It's right there. So just add some comments, topics, whatever you have in mind. As I mentioned, all the templates and resources you need to conduct your own Lightning Decision Jam are located in the resources over there. And if you are interested in, you know, upcoming workshops on remote design sprints and other innovation practices, you know, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm super passionate about empowering teams with the tools needed to answer those critical business questions. And especially in this time of need, if you or anyone you know could benefit from these practices, I'd be thrilled to help out. So that's a wrap.
Keith, can you please share for how long the link will be active so people can go there and provide feedback for you?
Yeah, so this mural will be available for as long as we need it. So unless we take it down, it'll be here. There's a nice thing about these murals. They live on beyond the event themselves. So there's no end date. Is really the clear answer.
I just wanted to add something else fairly quick, sorry Keith, is that this is an amazing tool. It seems like we can do lots of different things, but at the same time we are part of organizations, some of us. So please ensure that security is approving the use of the tool, so you don't get in trouble. Okay, so again, it's awesome, but get the thumbs up from the organization to start using the tool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think that even if you are limited to a simple whiteboard that doesn't have fancy features, you know, that your company has provided. I mean, even just you can, you know, you have a small team, you know, you have colleagues that respect and honor each other. You can do a voting exercise, you know, quite easily. It won't be sexy. It won't be anonymous. You won't have the stats. But I mean, now that you've kind of seen the process, it's a lot easier to kind of take away and co-opt to whatever needs you have. So this is just a nice tool designed for, you know, design facilitators like myself. But it's not necessarily needed. So, yeah. Are there any other questions?
I think there are two, one from Ed, one from PL.
Mm-hmm.
So from Ed, since the process to tool fairly works for sessions like this, where is without participants speaking, do you ever find participants feeling like they wanted to unmute and speak to some of these ideas?
So two parts to that answer. One is this exercise is designed to not have conversation. It's part of what creates the structure and the you know, democracy amongst people, because it's, you know, part of the design is trying to remove, you know, the psychological dynamic that exists in a meeting room, which is like, you know, some people are naturally, you know, very extroverted, some people are introverted, some people are very opinionated, some people are very reserved, some people think slowly, some people, you know. So the whole idea of removing the conversation is by design. And, you know, the folks who, you know, AJ and Smart, who came up with this process, you know, recommend that's done even in person. Okay. Now, when you get to the end, like when we're going through step 9 and 10, that's an area where you know, people can start having conversations, especially in step 10, where it's really just about, okay, how are we going to do this, guys? Who's going to do it? You know, work it out kind of thing. So that's specific to exercise. Now, the second part of the answer is, if you're doing this exercise with your team and you know, you have 4 to 8 people, you know, enabling people to unmute and have conversations at whatever point it's much more tenable. It's much more practical. However, you know, with about 30 people or so, it gets a little bit more challenging potentially. And it's hard to, you know, unless you have a mechanism for people to raise their hand, it gets a lot more difficult. You know, time management becomes a lot more difficult. So I made that decision to keep it 100% quiet. But I think with a smaller number of people, and especially, you know, your peers on your team, I think it's an option for you. You know, for example, if somebody had a question, instead of putting in the chat, they could have just interrupted. But if they understand the exercise is to be done in silence, I think that would be fine.
And last question for the night. Do we know how many views you can create with the free account?
So so I can't speak definitively, but my understanding is in Mural, they have the concept of basically a mural is inside a room, which is inside a workspace. Okay, so it's really like a file tree for organizing all your whiteboards, essentially. So I believe what they do is they limit you to one workspace. So I don't believe they limit the number of murals or whiteboards that you can use. But that would have to be confirmed, but I haven't seen anything limiting me. I haven't hit any limits. I have probably about 15 right now. So, you know, it's not something I've had to worry about.
So I created 18 in the last session, 18 whiteboards,
Yeah,
and all the 18s were the replica of the main original one
yeah, yeah.
uh,
So
for
I
smaller
didn't see a
discussions. Yeah,
I didn't see a constraint that way.
yeah,
As I say, Mural is quite permissive. You know, they're basically kind of going, if you're an individual, you know, doing your thing, then go nuts.
yeah.
But if you're trying to look professional, run a business, you need workspaces, because the workspaces really define the user membership, the security boundaries between accounts you give out to your customers or whomever, right? So really, I wouldn't do that, because I would create a user and they'd have access to all my customers if I was using a free account. I want, you know, that security boundary, and that's what you'd start paying for, essentially. That seems like the model they're doing. And they did loosen up their or increase their free license, if you will. And I forget what they added, but so they're being very generous, essentially.
There are a few more questions actually.
Okay.
So one is, have you encountered the situation where people can't make up their mind to vote? How would you go about that?
Make up your mind for what?
Vote, giving the votes.
Oh, the votes. I think that it's, you know, I haven't encountered that. You know, it's, I guess you would want to just handle it in a case by case basis. I think if there's like a real, you know, like the example where two post-it notes mean the same thing, right? You have to handle that, right? So that could be a reason why they can't make up their mind about the vote. But really, this stuff, you know, one of the design sprint principles is, you know, you know, it's better to act than to wait for perfection. You know, it's better, you know, let's move forward. You know, just make a decision. If throughout this exercise, you know, we had a tie, right? I could just make the call. Like, the reality is, you know, at the end of the day, it's about moving forward. It's about being efficient. It's about action. You know, if, you know, we're carrying this stuff forward, we're capturing it. If there's good ideas, we can come back to them. We can put that stuff in the backlog, you know, whatever we want to do. It's really just about, you know, moving forward. Any other questions?
There was one question, that's the last one, I think. Could you ask the participants to frame their challenges as how might we in the beginning and skip that step altogether?
So I guess step 2,
Yeah.
capturing all the problems like that. So I think that one of the thing, like, I think that the reason we go through this sort of step is that people don't necessarily think like that. Like, you know, you think about what's working, what's not working, and so this is a much more natural way for people to think. You know, I guess that's really the idea. You know, I think that you have levels of indirection in your levels or thought. So I would be thinking, you know, if someone just said to me, what are all the problems with remote work, I would say, I'm getting really lonely. You know, I don't think naturally like, okay, what does that mean, right? So I think it's probably better just to include that step. The other thing is that, you know, if people are sort of verbalizing the same thing using different language, you want to be able to capture that, right? You want to be able to say, okay, like, when you wrote this, you know, did you mean this, or did, you know, and maybe perhaps if you're in person with a small group, you can get someone to clarify what they meant, so you can resolve an issue like that. But typically, it's a process that would be done as a separate step.
Thanks, Keith. I think that was the last question. We covered all the questions in the chat. But even if you have any questions later, feel free to connect with Keith or send us through the Meetup or LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That was fun. I hope you guys got something out of it, and I hope you have the opportunity to actually try it out with your own teams.
Yeah, that was really awesome. So again, if you guys can't really use the tool, still you can get the how and the practices behind it, and use it with your teams either face to face or with a different tool. But still valuable information for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thanks everyone for joining. I think this was fun. Join our meetup so that you can get update information on what our next events would be. And if you have any questions, follow up to this or anything else, just reach out to any of us or to Keith directly, and we'll be sure to get back to you.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.